This is News 6 Tonight.
Glad to have you with us for News 6 Tonight. I am joined by the lovely Lisa Bell.
Good evening.
Some people say Lisa Bell, the anchor from hell. Yes, put the microphone right in front of your face. Good to see you
I want to
tonight.
make sure you hear me clearly tonight,
Absolutely.
Matt.
Trust me,
Yeah.
they can all hear you very well. So glad you're here. We had more big news today about the Florida Doge audits. They were so, of course, yesterday, if you missed the show or any of the newscasts, we had Governor Ron DeSantis and the fiscal pit bull, as the governor refers to him as, Blaise Ingoglia, the CFO for the state of Florida. They were in downtown Orlando. Didn't really announce why. We sort of knew from our sources what was going on, but they came and they were issuing investigative subpoenas to employees inside of Orange County.
Yeah. Orange County seems to be a target of the governors as well as the city of Orlando. There's only a handful of county governments that they really seem to be focused on, and Orange County definitely seems to be one of them. There was a lengthy press conference. I know we were streaming the whole thing live, carrying the live here on News 6, but they're now accusing, and they even mentioned this in the press conference, some county employees of not being completely transparent.
Hiding records.
Yes, but they said they didn't really showcase any of their evidence. They just made those allegations.
It seemed from what they were saying was there's more smoke than fire. I think that what they have is just a lack of things they were expecting to see. So we're talking millions of records here, all sorts of records that they've requested. Was it 100,000? What was it? I forget what the number was of how many records it was from the county they requested. But it was a ton of information. And so today we got the response from Orange County. We were asking them yesterday. They didn't really respond a whole lot. Our community correspondent, Mark, got some reaction from the leaders in Orange County today.
You're simply trying to taint the outcome in the public opinion.
Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings is denying the claims that his employees are not fully cooperating with the financial audit by Florida's Doge team.
There's not been any direction from myself or any senior leadership to our employees to hide information or any of that.
When we started questioning, what we got were some shady answers, some incomplete answers, and what the governor had alluded to, some people were just basically reading off of a script.
Demings saying there's no evidence of the allegations.
There's something else driving this, and this is all being driven by political motives.
Okay, so what the CFO says is someone from Orange County reached out to them and said, hey, records are being hidden, file names are being changed to things that you won't maybe recognize. And they've admitted, they said, look, we're using AI. It's too many records to sift through. So they're going to use AI to track keywords and whittle down a ton of information. But yeah,
the keywords they were looking for: diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
So that's what they're kind of focused on here.
And then he said that they couldn't find any emails about 5 specific grants for DEI that they were expecting to see. So that's sort of the, it's not really evidence that it's not there, but it's just not what they were expecting.
Seems like this is going to be something that is not going to die down anytime soon.
We'll be following this for a long time.
One of the people who was subpoenaed, though, according to our reporting, was actually the county attorney. And so I felt like that was interesting, just to see who's actually on their list of people being subpoenaed.
16, we learned today. 16 subpoenas were given out to government employees.
Speaking of government employees, we love Lake County. It is. Lake County's beautiful, right? But for some reason, some city leaders in the city of Groveland have been in the news lately, and not for the right reasons. So there's now another controversy surrounding a Groveland City Council candidate who is running for city commission. We're talking about James O'Neill. Now, the primary election was just held a couple weeks ago, and he actually beat out the current city commissioner as well as another person who was running for the seat, receiving more than 50% of the votes.
Just barely.
But still in a 3-person race to get more than 50%, that's pretty good.
Right.
However, he is now facing some criminal charges after an apparent road rage incident. Our Stephanie Rodriguez is going to bring us up to speed on this case.
Just last week, James O'Neill got over 50% of the vote for the primary election for the Groveland City Council. Now he's facing criminal charges and a lawsuit from a man he allegedly attacked. According to a Groveland police report, O'Neill spotted Michael Trentadue driving at what he thought was a high rate of speed through a neighborhood and decided to follow him. A confrontation ensued, with O'Neill telling officers that he pushed Trentadue and accidentally headbutted him. Police called the assertion of an accidental headbutt unlikely, given the height difference in the two men. O'Neill, a retired Navy veteran, is running for Groveland City Council. News 6 spoke with him ahead of the primary election.
Establish some KPIs.
O'Neill, who took just over 50% of the votes, is now facing aggravated battery and false imprisonment charges.
Now, go ahead.
So one of them is 5'7", and the other one is over 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
And so that's
O'Neill is over 6 feet tall.
He's the taller guy.
Yeah.
So if you're the taller guy and there's a shorter guy,
To accidentally headbutt
Whoops.
someone.
that would be hard.
And this looks like a pretty intense headbutt. If you noticed on his mugshot, he has a gash. I have it right here. Right in the center of his forehead.
Do you think
Maybe
that's
he
related?
tripped. I don't know.
It does. I was thinking the same thing. I don't know if we know for sure that is from the headbutt, but
True,
so,
but there is a gash and a bruise right in the center of his forehead.
yeah, you can see right on
Yeah,
our screen
okay.
there in the corner.
Now, to add to this story,
Okay.
a person representing the other driver in this case, the alleged victim, is Anthony Sabatini, another politician in Lake County who's often in the news. And then O'Neill is actually running for the seat that was held by former Groveland City Councilwoman Judith Fike, who was also in the news recently. The city council actually tried to remove her last month after Groveland's vice mayor brought up several social media posts allegedly written by Fike that the vice mayor called hateful and racist. A judge ruled the council did not have the authority to remove Fike, and that's kind of what led up to this election. By the way, in that case, Anthony Sabatini also represented Fike.
So he represented Fike, and in this case, he's representing the driver.
The victim.
Yes.
Yes, the alleged victim.
yes.
Who is now suing James O'Neill.
Against the guy who just took the person he was representing's seat because he beat her in the vote.
I
It's
don't know
very
what's
complicated.
happening. We're going to need an entire wall. Like it's like a big map,
Like one of those
how they're all
crime scene
connected,
places.
who's representing who was accused of doing what.
NCIS Lake County.
There's a lot,
to
but that's the
figure
latest
everything out.
thing. Right now, O'Neill is, I believe, been granted bond, but he's still facing these charges as well as a lawsuit. Anthony Sabatini, indicated that his client probably had $100,000 worth of medical damage, according to Anthony Sabatini. That's what he said. Yes. So
Interesting.
we'll see. And by the way, they're neighbors. They live in the same subdivision.
It does enrage me when I see people speeding through
Of
my
course,
neighborhood,
but
I would never run
You
them
cannot.
down
Right. Exactly.
allegedly.
That's when you just pick up
hurt
the
them.
phone, call, police, call the proper authorities, let them handle it.
Sure, they won't come for somebody speeding through your neighborhood probably, but I get the frustration. But that is,
Yeah.
if that allegation is true, that is certainly excessive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Florida has been executing inmates at a very quick clip this year. In fact, it is a record pace. They just tonight had their 11th execution of the year. So this guy, Curtis Wyndham, 33 years ago, murdered 3 people. He murdered his girlfriend, he murdered her mom, and then a guy.
In Orange
who was around.
County.
So it's all in Orange County. He was convicted years ago, and he's been sitting there on death row for a long time. A lot of these guys who have been on death row are starting to get executed with Governor Ron DeSantis. Our community correspondent, Mike Valenti, had a very interesting interview with this guy Wyndham's daughter.
Right.
Who basically was a baby when all of this happened, and she's only been able to know her dad through the visiting
Through
him
prison.
on death
Yes.
row. So it was an interesting interview. I thought we could bring it tonight. Let's take a look.
For several hours Wednesday, Curtisia sat with her father, the man who killed her mother, Valerie Davis, and grandmother, Mary Lubin.
A lot of people wonder how I dealt with him, knowing what he did to my mom and grandma. And it was easier to deal with when everything else besides that day has been nothing but good.
So I wanted to bring you this story because of the execution thing has been in the news a lot. And also just because I find her story heartbreaking and fascinating
Yeah.
because her father murdered her mother and her grandma. And
Yeah.
now he's the only person she has left. So she is still trying to have some sort of relationship with
And
him.
I believe there was a period of time when she knew her father and would visit him, but didn't know that he was actually the one who had killed his mother or killed her mother and grandmother. And so it wasn't until she was a little bit older, still a child, before she was actually told, what actually happened, which is interesting because she was able to develop this relationship, without knowing that. But yeah, and she also commented that he was kind of at peace with it and said that death row was no place to live. And, basically earlier today felt like he was not going to be spared. His life was not going to be spared. And she said he was at peace with that. So,
Yeah, said living a life on death row isn't worth living
right.
anyway.
Right.
But it's just a strange situation for her. I can't imagine. I'm sure people watch stories like this and they pass judgment. Like, how could you have a relationship with the man who killed your mother? Well, it's her father,
Yeah.
and he's all she has.
And to your point, she was a baby. She didn't know
She didn't
that.
experience that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All she ever saw was this person who I'm sure was very kind to her. And it was kind of her one biological connection to her past. And and he was probably able to provide her with information about her mom and grandmother,
Yeah.
nice memories
she could only get from
yeah,
them.
absolutely.
Yeah, what an odd
It
story.
is. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Lisa did a very interesting story about diplomas and people who are disabled.
Right.
I had no idea about
Certificates of completion is what for many years people have received. The state has just changed that, a new state law. The Board of Education has changed that, and it's creating all sorts of uncertainty for thousands of families.
Yeah,
So
stick
we're
with
going
us.
to go into that.
Yeah, after the break, we'll have that story. Welcome to News 6 Tonight. We are so thankful that you're joining us here wherever you found us.
Yeah, you know what this tells me? If you have made this your new streaming destination, it tells me you're smart. Also good looking, because you chose to watch the news in a different way. That makes you really smart. Anybody can give you the news from a teleprompter or an old newspaper. We do it in a fresh new way.
That's right. So check us out wherever you like to stream. We have this app for your TV, News 6 Plus. You can find it on Roku and Amazon and whatever your smart TV is cooking. So thank you. We would love to hear your comments down below.
My gosh. Yeah.
And then we'll show them.
Yeah, we will. News 6 Plus. The plus is you.
Ooh.
Well, welcome back. I recently received a text message from a friend of mine who has a daughter with Down syndrome, goes to Orange County Public Schools, very concerned. She said, "Did you hear about this latest ruling that came out of Tallahassee?" And I said, "No, what are you talking about?" Well, apparently this spring, state legislature signed a bill into law that affects thousands of people in the state, and they really didn't know about it. And just last week, the State Board of Education formalized some rules. So what this will do, for years, many students with disabilities would go through K through 12 education, when they're done with school, many times they're 22 years old at that point, they would receive what's called a certificate of completion. And they would rely upon that certificate to then go and get some type of vocational program or post-secondary education. Well, now the state is saying we're getting rid of those certificates. Instead, everyone is going to get the same high school diploma, which for some on the surface sounds okay, but it's creating a whole lot of confusion and
that sounded
uncertainty.
like, I want you to be able to tell your
Yeah.
story, but I thought it seemed better. Like, oh, it's
So-
just a diploma like anybody else.
Yeah, let's listen to this mom that I interviewed last week, Amy Van Bergen, and hear her story.
And then part of your job is to shred the paper here?
Every Thursday, Wills Van Bergen, who has Down syndrome, spends 4 hours at the Davie Law Group in Maitland, shredding papers and scanning documents. It's a job he landed after finishing high school and a vocational program at the University of North Florida.
So the program that he attended at UNF, he could not have attended if he had had a standard diploma.
But a new state law has eliminated those certificates effective immediately. Now every student will receive the same high school diploma.
Usually when you have a major policy change like this, the State Department of Education likes to host public meetings, give opportunities for feedback from both internal and external stakeholders, and that really didn't happen.
Van Bergen says many parents are worried their children will now fall through the cracks.
There probably won't be guidance for at least a year, so what happens to this year's graduating class?
So that was, the crux of her concerns. She felt like thousands of other families were completely caught off guard by this. And what does this mean moving forward? Because to her point, she says there are actually thousands of programs all throughout the state where in order to be accepted into that program, you specifically need that certificate of completion because it tells that program that you have a different set of standards. You're not a typical high school graduate, that you might not be able to read, or you might have certain limitations. And so if they open this program up to anyone who has a high school diploma, it's not the same.
So is there a chance, since it just happened, we're not really going to run into the issue until the end of the school year when these diplomas go out again, I would imagine?
Perhaps, yeah.
And so is there a chance that in that amount of time they can catch the system up so that it evens out? So like say
that's what she's hoping for. But to her point, she says it takes a year to get that sort of guidance. Just that's how government works, right? Everything is slow, the bureaucracy, and that it will come from the Florida Department of Education in terms of what the criteria is to get into this vocational program or that vocational program.
So there's no difference between the diploma they get and the diploma.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. However, because a student like Wills has an IEP, he will have special accommodations made for him in school, which is an IEP is an individualized education plan. So no, he is not going to be able to write to. This is the example that Amy gave me. He can't write a 12-page term paper on a novel, but he could perhaps put together a slideshow that talks about the main points of the book.
Okay.
So he's, and because that falls under his IEP, he would do the necessary things that he needs to do in order to get a diploma. But to her point, it's basically not the same diploma that a student without Down syndrome would get.
Interesting story. I have heard.
She feels like it's just muddying the waters a little bit because as much as she doesn't want her son to be kind of this second tier, diplomas or certificates, as much as she doesn't want that, she says it's important. She doesn't want her son to show up somewhere in some educational environment or a job with all these expectations because they think he has a standard high school diploma when he's not able to do those various things.
It feels like the intentions behind this were probably very good.
And
like,
she
hey, let's
feels
not
that
give
way
them
too.
this.
She just thinks it was rushed and kind of thrown out there, and all of these families have been caught off guard.
Hopefully
it
they
gets
can make
worked
it a
out.
priority
Yes.
and they can figure it out before these diplomas are handed out next spring. All right, let's get you over to, we have meteorologist David Nazario in this evening covering our weather. He is in for Sir Jonathan Kagas. And David, we actually had some tornado warnings that snuck in there for Flagler County today. It was 2, in fact.
Yeah, very early in the afternoon. We haven't seen that in a long time in Central Florida. I want to pull up the radar loop to show you how fast this evolved earlier this afternoon. You can see the timestamp at the very top of the screen there, right around 2 o'clock. It's like the lid came off. We've been very warm. We've had more sunshine over the last couple of days now in comparison to when we started the week. We're now sitting at Friday Eve. Friday Eve is sneaking up on us. But yes, very active pattern out there. And I think a lot of it has to still do with what we've been dealing with unseasonably strong cold fronts coming through, leftovers of Hurricane Erin, even though I know that was basically history at this point, with as fast as time is moving through, and a big old trough will kind of dissect together coming up at the 9:30 weather show. Outside right now, though, when you look at the live radar, we still got some action out there. In fact, I noticed a little something spinning, not tornadic, thankfully, near the Orlando metro area. It's called a convective vortex. I know that's very, very heavy jargon. We'll talk more about that at 9:30. Thought it was very interesting, though, with all those thunderstorms continuing to push towards the east, really rocking portions of Seminole County, Orange, Osceola. Brevard, you're coming right up next. You're going to be receiving that puppy, too. And then before we close out, just want to tease ahead for the next few days. Did have those powerful storms and tornado warnings. We'll be talking about whether or not that's still on the table for tomorrow and through Labor Day weekend as our chances for rain continue to grow. And then believe it or not, even though they're supposed to be quiet, we are in fact watching a couple spots out there in the tropics.
Yeah, and David, we're used to these sea breeze collisions that cause our thunderstorms
around 4 p.m.
Yeah, around 4 p.m. But in this case, you're saying this was Aaron Funk still tormenting us. This wasn't a sea breeze issue?
So the sea breeze is actually what kind of snuck in under the radar, Matt, like you said.
Oh.
We still have westerly winds just ripping across the peninsula. But because the sea breeze happens closest to the surface where we can feel it, believe it or not, that kind of undercut those upper level westerly winds. And that's what created that spin and the little nudge to get these thunderstorms rapidly building and then to try to start rotating on us.
Well, it's a little annoying that they're still happening, though, at this hour. I know it's affected the UCF game tonight. A lot of kids had practices that were canceled tonight. They're supposed to be done by about 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it's breaking the rules.
Yes.
It is. It's misbehaving left and right, and I think we're not done with seeing that setup just yet.
All right, David Nazario, check him out at 9:30. He'll have the full breakdown of all the weirdness going on in the weather department. I'm just going to tell you this. Batman pajamas.
Speaking of weirdness.
Coming in clutch for the win. Stick with us after the break. We'll talk about a guy who saved the day in Batman pajamas.
All right.
Welcome to News 6 Tonight. We are so thankful that you're joining us here wherever you found us.
Yeah, you know what this tells me? If you have made this your new streaming destination, it tells me you're smart. Also good looking, because you chose to watch the news in a different way. That makes you really smart. Anybody can give you the news from a teleprompter or an old newspaper. We do it in a fresh new way.
That's right. So check us out wherever you like to stream. We have this app for your TV, News 6 Plus. You can find it on Roku and Amazon and whatever your smart TV is cooking. So thank you. We would love to hear your comments down below.
My gosh. Yeah.
And then we'll show them.
Yeah, we will. News 6 Plus. The plus is you.
Ooh. So I don't know. You're probably getting ready for bed.
Yeah.
Maybe you're tucked in. Watching
Maybe you're
this
in
on
bed
your cell
already.
phone. Very well could
Yeah.
be. Watching on the laptop, on the cell phone. What kind of pajamas do you wear?
What do you wear, Matt?
I'm an undies guy. Only undies.
Like whitey tighties?
Oh, not they're tighty whities. Tighty whities, not whitey tighties. So, but no, I'm an underwear guy. You do not want to break into my house at night because you're going to see the whole thing.
Lovely.
So, what about you? Are you a Batman pajamas guy now?
No.
Okay. All right. I guess that's a weird thing to ask.
No. My husband does have a Batman t-shirt, which I find even that weird when he wears it from time to time. He says he got it on sale.
Okay, well, as long as he got it on sale, then it's not embarrassing at all. So I want you to picture it's early, it's 2 a.m. Somebody's breaking into cars in Cape Coral, Florida. Guy gets woken up by his wife, like, hey, this guy's breaking into cars. So he sprints out there.
Mm-hmm. He's ready.
Full Batman pajama gear. Here's the story from Cape Coral.
At 2 a.m., Kyle Mavette jumped out of his bed in his Batman pajamas, got in his truck, and drove around his southeast Cape Coral neighborhood. He said he found a possible burglar in his neighbor's garage.
I grabbed a hold of their shirt and their right wrist, and I told him, I said, listen, don't try to get away.
Police showed up quickly after and arrested Justin Schimple.
I don't have a Superman pajama because he's kind of, if you're impervious and invincible, you're not really brave.
Oh, look.
Could you imagine being the burglar and seeing Batman show up? Right? What's better than that?
I don't know that he thought it was Batman, but apparently he listened because he grabbed him by the shirt.
Yeah.
And he basically said, hey, kid, you better sit down and wait until police get here. Maybe he said it like this.
Maybe so. Just one comment on those pajamas, though. It is, August in Florida, and those are like those look like winter pajamas to me. Those are long pants, long sleeve shirt.
I would spontaneously combust if I wore
Correct.
that to sleep. I am a baked potato.
And then to be
when I
running
sleep.
through your neighborhood in something like that.
That guy would get the sweatiest mess.
Maybe that's the trick. Yeah. Maybe he works out in that, so he's in great shape.
Yeah.
You know?
It doesn't hold any water. Hey, thank you for watching this crazy show with us on News 6 tonight. Lisa Bell, you're amazing. We will do this again tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. We'll see you then.
Tidy whities, whitey.